So that's like 100x. Here's a really good example where you put like 25 bucks into a name. And if we rally back up and just do nothing more than just go head up to probably a realistic trade location at some point down the road, maybe it takes a year or two, then $25 turns into 2,500 fucking bucks. And I've got a free position now. That's the whole point of this take $500 and turn it into hundreds of thousands of dollars, blah, blah, blah conversation. And actually, I did bang out a nice little double, so it's nice to see. Got a little treat on this bros, thanks to Dan. Dan was actually super bullish of this thing when it came right out of the gate. I just sort of let it settle down, and really, I wanted to actually get in when he was touting it right out of the gate, but it just took off like a rocket, just straight up. So I waited for the correction, and indeed, it did come right back down to the original bottom. Here you can see on the daily chart, basically complete reset, and then actually started to put in double bottoms on like the 4-hour charts, 1-hour charts, when picks them up and banged out a double just on that little. And you can see, I mean, relatively speaking, it wasn't even much of a move, eh? But now, I mean, what's my bag going to be worth if they have the audacity to do something like take this back up to candle body highs? And here's a really good analogy of the wicks and stuff. You can tell there's a whole bunch of trap bulls up here that would love to get released. But I mean, you can see the price I'm in, right? It's look at it. It's such a funny price. How many zeros? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 zeros, and this is 2 zeros. So that's like 100x, right? If we one 10x and then another one would be 100x. Here's a really good example where you put like 25 bucks into a name. And if we rally back up and just do nothing more than just go head up to probably a realistic trade location at some point down the road, maybe it takes a year or two, then $25 turns into 2,500 fucking bucks. And I've got a free position now, and that's 25 bucks from this price. Keep in mind, I'm long from like 3, right? This like 3 number. That's the whole point of this take $500 and turn it into hundreds of thousands of dollars, blah, blah, blah conversation. So if anything, I'm super pleased that Steven got me onto this Solana platform. And then we have, of course, a bunch of people on the site that are Solana fans. But anyway, really good example of just business as usual, just going about just doing our thing. And then, if you happen to fancy yourself a little old lady, and, also too, I noticed a lot of people on the site were looking at like price charts, like for example, looking at a price chart like this, and then drilling down to like, say like, I don't know, 30-minute chart, and then seeing this trend line break and asking, is this an LJ setup? And of course, I don't know if the person who asked this question yesterday is on the call. But, no offense, and this is a pretty normal question. It's pretty typical. I would prefer that you do not go this route and start trying to hunt setups off the lower time frames. I would prefer that you start at the highest time frame possible. And here, if we look at this image, you can see that if we were thinking LJ, right, we would want to see a break of that trend line. Also, too, when we look at this daily price chart, we ask ourselves, is this really a good trade location? That Beamish guy, he calls himself a cheap ass, and he doesn't like to spend a lot of money on stuff. And this is everything in my life. So it's not just stocks and crypto and commodities. I think I would prefer you to stick to the higher time frames when you're hunting these setups. I did have somebody that had posted a 1-hour chart looking for an LJ setup, and my advice, and this is my advice to all of you, is stick to the higher time frame charts when hunting your setups, because on a 1-hour chart or even 30-minute chart or whatever, you might have looked at this and said, okay, maybe there's an LJ in there kind of idea, but you're missing the big picture. And while this did enjoy a nice little counter trend rally, there's a very realistic possibility that we have to bring the whole damn market right back down to the bottom end of the range here. And the statistical odds of this continuing on and making you a fortune up top here, kind of sketchy. This one in particular, you should all look at this and go, well, Brian, doesn't this look like this type of setup? And what I would be saying is, It could very easily be a bot setup trend continuation. But and then you could apply, I suppose, the three higher lows methodology, and then if you're working off that lower time frame chart, be thinking about how do I get long bot setups. But interestingly enough, I would actually prefer that this bot setup on the other side of this downtrend line that was established off the daily charts. So I might go like that and then go like that and then drag this up there. So 1, 2, 3. I don't really like how we're rallying into this trend line right now. That looks a little bit suspicious. And then if we wanted to actually like see bot levels, then we go like so. Yeah. So interesting how we're coming up to the bot level and we have this trend line here, but you wouldn't have seen that if you were just focused on the lower time frames. That's why I really like to zoom out off the daily charts. Like when we zoom in and do all the daily charts up here, now this starts to look something like this. Ideally, I'd really like this to happen on the other side of this downtrend line. So I don't know whether that's constructive or not, but like I said, I had somebody asking yesterday about LJ trendline breaks on like an hour chart, and I was like, you know what, it's probably in your best interest to zoom out to the higher time frames and hunt them. And frankly speaking, I would have preferred that you be hunting it over here, where the assets at right at the bottom end of the range were breaking out. I mean, maybe it's something like there to there. Actually, it doesn't really matter. Just draw your your trend lines. You'd like to see 3 tags and then nice break. Okay. And then we get W's to get long over here on the other side of the trend line, working off of that daily price chart. Coming in here, if I did the daily price chart, I draw my downtrend line. We have not broken that. And hunting LJs off of like lower time frames, I mean, maybe it sets up trades, but I think most of the people in this site, unless you're in the actual day trader room and I talk to you on a regular basis and we're looking at like these lower time frame charts, okay. But I don't see a lot of that on the site. What I see is, especially in like the lounge and stuff, is a lot of sort of like swing traders, position traders, investors, like the little old lady room. Those all should be investors. They should not be traders. And that means you really want to be working off these higher time frame charts and hunting the setups off the higher time frame charts.